Last August 19th, 2024, a group of kids carried out one of the largest crypto heists ever recorded.
Shit, it's on the
Oh my
blockchain,
god!
bro.
Oh my god!
Fucking way.
Oh my god!
This was a group of kids led by 20-year-old Malone Lam, another 18-year-old Veer, 21-year-old Serrano, there's this guy Khan, and this guy Chen. So these kids targeted a single who had no clue that they're about to lose $250 million. But remember, this is a group of kids. Did they have a bunch of hacking skills? Like, how are they able to steal $230 million worth of Bitcoin? The truth is, they use a very simple tactic. So the whole thing started with a phone call, right? This kid they call Wiz, he reached out to this guy and he spoofed a Google support phone number. So he reached out to this Genesis account holder, this rich person. He called them up and pretended to be someone from Google support. This is why whenever you get a support call from anywhere, you guys, you want to always hang up and say, hey, I'm going to hang up and I'm going to call you right back. Call Google and make sure that that person that's calling you actually works for Google. Basically, what this kid Wiz did is he called him, he acted like he was from Google. Because he told this person that they were hacked and he pretended to be from Google, he was able to convince this person to give them access to their Google account, their iCloud. So now he had access to everything on this person's devices. Now at this point, they've already got this guy loosened up as when they call him again. Another guy, the other guy I mentioned, Serrano, now he gives this guy a call. Now you have this guy, right, this victim who already thinks he's been hacked, and now he has a second call coming through from Serrano, and Serrano's now going to pretend to be from Gemini, a Gemini account specialist or whatever, and he's going to tell them that his Gemini account was also compromised. It was at this point that the victim pretty much messed up, because convinced that all his accounts were compromised and he was speaking to support, they convinced him to reset his two-factor logins. He pretty much gave them access to everything. They were able to go into his Gemini account and withdraw those funds very quickly in a matter of minutes. $230 million worth of Bitcoin evaporated from this victim's account. What's even crazier about all of this is these guys recorded it. They recorded the whole thing while it was taking process.
Do you know how much money that is?
It's a
Holy fuck!
quarter of a bill.
How much
Probably.
you
Holy-
got? Spent 3 ways or is it 4 ways?
They recorded the phone calls. They made all the evidence for everyone. They just recorded themselves, which is a new thing that young people are doing nowadays. Is when they go and commit crimes, they record and document the whole process. They record everything. So these guys transferred over 4,000 Bitcoin worth, at the time, almost $250 million to their wallets. And they began celebrating, right? They began going crazy because now they were rich as fuck. Now, most people at this point would be asking themselves, how could somebody with so much money be so confused and take the bait and have all this money stolen from them in just a flash like that? Well, when scammers play on human emotion, it's very easy. And no matter how much money you have, you can't escape your humanity. And these guys just played on this person's emotions, and that's why they were able to catch them lacking. But of course, it's not that simple, right? And as I mentioned before, these guys are a group of kids. They're a group of kids scammers. They're not like sophisticated hackers or anything. But in the moments after they transferred this money, 17 minutes after, that's when they began laundering the money. So what they did was a tactic called pill changes. They sent this 4,000 Bitcoin out to a bunch of different exchanges. I'm talking about like 50 different exchanges, breaking it all down into different increments and sending it to different wallets. They break these really large transactions down into smaller transactions, and then they start swapping between different currencies, Litecoin, Bitcoin, Monero, to really cloud and obfuscate where this money is coming from. So after a few days of all of this constant swapping back and forth between cryptocurrencies on all these different exchanges, between all these different wallets, now they've laundered this money. And now guess what? Now it's time to ball out, right? It's time to spend it, because now it's looking like it's a success for these guys. These guys had it all planned out. They were all texting each other about how they're going to spend this money, all the luxury stuff they're going to buy. they were gonna start balling out immediately. As soon as they got access to this money and the money was cleaned and laundered, they were gonna start spending it and going crazy. Their ringleader, this guy Malone Lam, he basically was probably the flashiest of them all. He's the one who could not wait to ball out. He couldn't wait to get his luxury Givenchy, his Lamborghinis. He could not wait to get his hands on this money so he could ice himself out. As soon as he got his hands on this money, everything he saw rich people in LA, he saw all the flashy stuff that he could never afford before, now was all within his grasp. And so you know that he was going to splurge. Man's balling out crazy, popping bottles in the club, and I'm talking about spending hundreds of thousands of dollars at a time in the club on bottle service. Now, I wouldn't exactly call him a philanthropist, but you know, he's giving back. He's giving away some of this stuff, giving away bags to females in the club that he think is hot. And
me and my two girlfriends walk over to the section, and this kid, 18, he looked pretty young. He comes towards me and he's like, I got this for you. It's beautiful, but to be honest, it's not really my style.
Basically trying to buy the affection of the people around him, which is a common thing we see with people who go from rags to riches. They don't know how to behave themselves or conduct themselves with access to this amount of money. And so they do quite stupid and ridiculous things like begin to waste it and attract the attention of investigators, which is exactly what Lam was doing. While his friends were trying to stay low, he was out attracting the attention. He was out spinning the bag. The unfortunate thing for this kid is people like Zach XBT were on his ass. They were already tracking the flow of the money and trying to find out where this money was ending up, so they were investigating it. And while he's out spending money and crashing out in the clubs, he's just making it that much easier, creating a larger trail for these investigators to catch up to him. And this would ultimately be his demise. While this kid's out spending all this money thinking he's untouchable, law enforcement and the online investigators were on his ass connecting the dots, and it would just be a matter of time before he would ultimately meet his end. So investigators were able to track very large transactions, and ultimately a couple of these kids, Wiz and Box or whoever, they slipped up when they were transferring and laundering some of this money, and it got linked to some of their personal accounts. I mean, this is really just besides the fact that they're just really recording every part of the process along the way. They just record everything. So you're just leaving all of these breadcrumbs along the way while you're doing these illegal activities. These guys didn't think this one through. So by mid-September 2024, these guys had left enough evidence, recordings, and they've balled out enough in the club and left enough of a trail for the FBI to get on their ass. And it was at this time that Lam's Miami mansion was raided and they apprehended his dumbass. Authorities were able to freeze over $9 million worth of assets and return over $500,000 to the victim. However, a significant portion of the money is just all spread out all over the place and is tied up in crazy ass things like all the cars he bought. And while the government was able to seize a lot of these items through asset forfeiture, a lot of the money that these guys spent and that Lam spent is just going to be gone forever, because when he's popping bottles and he's drinking stuff in the club and he's giving away all of these luxury gifts to people, there's no way for anybody to recover that. And the people that receive this stuff, they're not going to be held responsible to give it back. So he just blew through probably millions and millions of dollars of this guy's money and this victim's money that will never be able to be recovered. People's greed consumes them, and it's your greed, your ego, and that's what gets them all caught in the end. And you see it with the big name people, the big name rappers like Dirk, and you see it with the small time, no name, scamming type frauding criminals on the lowest level. Just crazy that they're touching these wild amounts of money, even if it's for a short time. They live like kings, and then they do time and they get out of there. But that is the story. Tell me what you guys think. Do you think that this could happen again? Do you think that nowadays we just have kids that are capable of committing such large and dangerous and crazy crimes? Like, comment, subscribe. Tell me what you think. If it's not about topics I cover in this video or in other videos, then just don't talk to me.